Le Morte d'Arthur is a medieval book from the 1400s written by Thomas Malory that takes all of King Arthur's stories and puts it together into one large epic. It covers everything from King Arthur's birth to becoming king, the Knights of the Round Table, and the love triangle that eventually destroys the kingdom of Camelot. Then we have Excalibur, which is a 1981 movie that tells the same story but in a much more dramatic and emotional, mystical way. It's darker and more stylized, and instead of focusing on just chivalry and duty, it takes a more emotional and real approach to the situation. It really hones in on Arthur, Lancelot, and Guinevere as flawed, real people. So the question is, how do these two versions handle these three characters? What does that say about the story as a whole, and why is it relevant today? Arthur is this legendary hero type, but how he's portrayed depends on the version that you're looking at. In Le Morte d'Arthur, he is more of a symbol. He's the ideal king. He's wise and just, but his downfall isn't really his fault. It's because of betrayal. He's kind of this larger-than-life figure who represents what a ruler should be. But in Excalibur, Arthur is a lot more human. He doubts himself, he struggles to lead, and loses faith at times. The movie shows him more as somebody who wants to be a great king, but has to constantly fight for it, both against others and himself. So while both versions make him a tragic hero, the book treats him almost like an untouchable legend, while the movie gives him more real and personal struggles. Lancelot is supposed to be the greatest knight of all time. He's brave, he's strong, and totally devoted to Arthur as well as his best friend. But he's also the one who betrays him the most. In Le Morte d'Arthur, Lancelot is seen as an amazing knight despite his affair with Guinevere. He's guilty, yeah, but people still respect him because he's so skilled and noble. Even after everything, he's still treated as a hero. In Excalibur, however, his downfall is way more dramatic. He completely breaks down over his feelings for Guinevere, and when Arthur finds out, it destroys him. The movie really focuses on his guilt and self-loathing, making him feel less like a perfect knight and more like a guy who just completely lost himself. Now, let's talk about Guinevere. She's a massive part of both of these stories, but she's portrayed very differently in both. In Le Morte d'Arthur, she's kind of a passive character. The whole affair with Lancelot happens, and she gets blamed for it, but she doesn't really have much of a voice. She just ends up in a convent as a way of atoning, and that's pretty much the end of her story. However, in Excalibur, she gets more depth. The movie explores how she's torn between Arthur and Lancelot. Instead of just being a figure who causes drama, she has real emotions. She's a real person. And her choices feel way more personal. You actually get to see her guilt, and it makes her feel a lot more like a real person than just the queen who messed up. And both versions agree that she plays a major role in Camelot's downfall, but the book is way harsher than the movie. The movie is much more sympathetic. So, what's the same about these two properties? Both Le Morte d'Arthur and Excalibur share the same basic story, where Arthur is the noble king, but Camelot falls because of betrayal. Lancelot is a legendary knight, but is in love with Guinevere, and that also leads to his downfall. Guinevere is in a love triangle with Arthur and Lancelot, and it causes tension and weakens the kingdom and causes its downfall. Fate is a huge theme. No matter how much they fight it, things always seem to end up the same way. So what's the difference? There are some big differences between the two properties. Arthur, in the book, is an untouchable legend, but in the movie, he's more of a human. He's flawed. In the book, Lancelot is treated like a hero even after the affair, but the movie makes him a tragic figure who completely falls apart. He completely loses it. Guinevere, in the book, is treated super harshly, but the movie explores her emotions and her struggles, making her more of a human person rather than a plot device. Basically, Le Morte d'Arthur is about chivalry, duty, and honor, while Excalibur is about human emotions, internal conflict, and how personal choices shape fate. Okay, so why are we still talking about these characters, like Lancelot, King Arthur, and Guinevere? I mean, these stories are old, right? Well, the themes in them, like love, power, betrayal, duty, are all super relevant to stories today. I mean, we love stories like that. Just take a look at something like Baldur's Gate or A Court of Thorns and Roses. They're very prevalent themes in each of those things. Yeah. Beyond that, their Arthurian legends are everywhere. We see them pop up in fantasy stories, historical fiction, and superhero movies. Heck, one of my friends just wrote a book about Arthurian legend based on it. The idea of a noble leader trying to do what's right, and the best friend who betrays him, and the love that complicates everything, that's timeless. It's forever. Beyond that, dang it, I read the wrong part. Plus, the way Le Morte d'Arthur and Excalibur handle these characters differently shows how storytelling changes with time. Malory focused on duty and honor, while the movie focused on characters and the depth of them, and the complexity rather than just black and white heroism. Heroism? I don't know. So, yeah, Arthurian legend isn't just some medieval thing to leave in the past. It's still shaping the way we tell stories today. It is the baseline for everything. Almost everything. At the end of the day, both versions of the story show us why Arthurian legend has lasted so long. Malory's version gives us a classic legendary take on the fall of Camelot, while Excalibur brings it down to a personal level, down to earth, focusing on emotions and flaws of these well-known characters. One thing remains the same, though. Arthur, Lancelot, and Guinevere, their choices don't just affect themselves. They shape the entire fate of Camelot. And that's what makes their story so tragic, no matter which version you're looking at.